Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Serious Futsal podcast, and it's a very different look for the Serious Futsal podcast. I mean, now we're on video. We've finally made the step. We've tried something new. This could go disastrously wrong, but maybe, we'll have a few moments of magic, and I'm here with Ethan Stone. Ethan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to be a part of it. I've been keeping up with the futsal for the last, I've been only for 2 months, and it's been a journey. Great to be a part of such a prestigious and awesome amount of people that are involved.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your own podcast, actually, that I want to shout out before I actually forget. What is it, the Nuffies?
The Uneducated Nuffies. We are a sports podcast. We look at Australians both on the level in Australia and on the international scale. We look at sports such as AFL, football, soccer, basketball, golf, cricket, you name it. We've got a segment we call Melons of the Week. We look at it's a lot of fun. We release podcasts every Wednesday on YouTube and Spotify. Check us out on the Modal Sports page or on the Uneducated Nuffies on Spotify.
And I want to give that shout out here because you've come a long way to jump on this podcast. You're kind of a new face to futsal, and who knows, maybe we'll see some serious futsal on that podcast. different point of view, because everything that comes out of our league is mainly from the league. There's no independent, media. And the reason I wanted to bring you on as a guest, I've had players, I've had, frothers from around the kind of stadium, but you have this unbiased, I want to say uneducated, because I've spoken to you about the game, and you absolutely have an understanding of sport, what makes sport interesting, the entertainment business of sport in general. So having you on as kind of that unbiased, unfiltered kind of individual, I think this will make a really good podcast and a very interesting one at that.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think having a person that isn't heavily involved in such a sport, although I am behind the camera on game days, I do see a lot, I notice a lot, I see the little things that make people tick and things that some people wouldn't notice at the venue. But for myself, I've been loving sport since I was 6. I've been playing numerous different sports throughout my lifetime. I've worked in sports. It's been a passion I've had for years. And to come along that Series Futsal and see what they're doing here, I think it's a great initiative and work that they're putting in here. There's a reason it's been going on for so long. And to be able to see the amount of passion people have for futsal, that shocked me the most. When I'm friends with Adam Palombi. We all know who Adam is.
We're all friends with Adam Palombi.
We're all friends with him. But he brought me along. I'm like, I wasn't too sure about it. But then I came down for the one day I was doing camera, and I just sort of loved it and fallen in love with the sport. What I didn't think I would at first.
Because it was similar to me. Because I came in as a cameraman as well. And the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of a cool setup. It's an amateur sport, I guess. And then you really watch it for a while and you start to understand this person is this is Moreland, Fitzroy. There's big rivalry. Pascoe Vale at the time weren't, really around when I first came in. They were a bottom licking team. But nonetheless, you were looking at the narratives that this league has. It's almost 20 years old.
Yeah,
that's almost older than the A League.
For the A League, I believe, if I'm correct, has been around since 2003. So for it to outlast that, and in my opinion, I've been lucky to work on the A League this season. More enjoyable to watch futsal is. I feel like the passion is there. The fans still come down in waves. We get the support on YouTube and watching the live games. I think the passion is there. The support is there. We just need to once it can get to that next atmosphere to try and make itself become even bigger than it already is.
Now you've watched the game now. I think how many weeks have you been around? 4, 5, 6?
Probably 6 weeks.
6
I'd
weeks. Say. I mean, there's a lot right with this game. There's a lot that maybe could change about the game as well. And I think one of the big debates that has gone on from last season to this season has been, the changes in the rules, in the way that we play the game. The game's played differently across the world. Obviously, we play under FIFA rules now, so we've gone to Football Victoria, affiliated with them, and we follow a much more broadly accepted form of futsal. Last season, just to fill you in, we had, maybe not last season, the season before that, throw-ins. We had VAR checks. We had penalty shootouts instead of wins. Instead of draws. So there was no draws, penalty shootouts. There's a whole abundance of rules that we implemented in futsal. When I say we, Peter and Joe, the previous commissioner, that they used to try and make the game more entertaining. Do you think watching this game at the moment that the sport itself is entertaining?
I 100% agree. I believe, well, you look at the way that futsal is as a sport, it's trying to differentiate itself from the original standard of outdoor football, trying to make it look as a... Because you don't want to copy what they're doing, because it's, in separate sense, it's a totally different idea. You're indoors, smaller courts, it's all different. So you need to try and make little differences to try and either speed the game up, make it more exciting, bring it to a bit more of a reputational sport. And I think looking at what I've seen this season, the kick-ins is a major thing. I think works because it allows for the defense to be able to set up a bit more. You can't throw long. It's going to keeps the ball on the ground, so you're not playing as much headers. It's especially with that ball, I didn't realise how sort of flat and heavy it is.
Yeah,
Like
it's a different ball.
It's a totally like you look at it first, it's a smaller ball, but the weight of it, the sort of the air pressure, it's a different game. Penalty shootouts, I actually didn't know about that, but I'm glad to see that's gone, because I think draws is important because it puts more pressure on the teams at the end to try and find a winner, because nobody wants 1 point, you want 3. Everyone comes to play for 3 points. You don't come to play for 1 or 0. So it puts more pressure on the players to try and find ways to get down the court, try and get that last goal to get those 3 points there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the reasoning behind the penalty shootouts at the end of the games, when the game is drawn, was to make sure there was a winner. And the idea was, a team's going to fight its way back and then could win the game from being a goal down, you know what I mean? Which I think it didn't work in the current state of the league. I mean, I would say there's a monopoly of great teams in Moreland, Fitzroy, and the players they have. They have a monopoly on the league. And you need to find a way to challenge them to fight it out at the end of the game. So when you have a draw, inevitably, Moreland or Fitzroy, they're going to go and play flying keeper, fifth man.
Yeah.
Which is another different aspect of the game, futsal, compared to outdoor. You have that extra player that can come on.
The keeper isn't as heavily involved feet-wise. They have to play a bit more up, back. They're sort of really there just to shot stop by the looks of it.
Well, then the teams will also have a dedicated person that would come on and play that.
Like a Scott Rogan for Fitzroy.
Exactly right. Like Scott or Elias Partham was for Western United. And that would force those teams to really have to play that risky form of futsal where you're playing 5 players up, but if you lose that ball, you could concede a goal on the other end and your season could be done.
Yeah.
In this league where in the past, if you lose 2 games, you've lost the title. This is a bit different of a season. I will say, Western United have shocked.
Yeah.
Western United, a few weeks ago, I don't know if you were there for that game.
No, I was away for that Western United against Fitzroy. I was shattered, but I was keeping the live scores, and it looked like an absolute belter of a game. Yeah,
one of the best games this season, absolutely. Western United beats Fitzroy. Fitzroy forced to go 5th man to try and conjure up an equaliser and then eventually a winner at the same time. And everything worked in the favour of Western United. They held on. And that's kind of the magic of the 5th man and the draw at the same time. It really puts pressure on teams to try and win the game.
Well, it also feels like the league is, although there is the monopoly, you are correct. You got the Fitzroy, you got Moreland. You can almost say Western United are now part, probably not yet, but like at least this season have been that dominant team this season. But obviously the monopoly of Moreland and Fitzroy. But even the lower leagues, like when I came in here, I thought you watch first 2 games, you make your opinions. It looked like there was going to be 2 or 3 clear bottom of the table teams. Obviously Altona fell out, and then we brought in Melbourne AKU. They've actually looked pretty good so far this season. They've been able to keep their own. Unlucky to lose, 4-2 to Pascoe on the weekend?
Yes.
Something like that. But even looking at Carlton from where they started this season, it looked like were they going to be able to compete for a win. But even that game against they played Moreland 2 weeks ago, where they gave it to them to about 5-10 minutes left in the game, it's at least showing that big divide between top and bottom isn't as big as we see it is. Obviously, Carlton aren't probably up to the stand and scratch that the other teams up the top of the table are, but they've been able to at least keep with them and show that they aren't just going to get run over each week.
I'll say this. Now you've been to Thomastown. We're in Thomastown shooting at the moment, just to give a bit of background. This is the serious futsal court. It's a shorter court.
Yes.
It's not as long as the one in Darebin, What are your thoughts on the difference in court size, and which do you think is actually better for the game?
I think the bigger court works because it provides more space. I feel like as soon as it gets more enclosed, you got smaller courts. It's going to end up providing. It has to be a lot more indicative to yourself, a lot more skill movements, getting through players, short, sharp passes to your teammates, getting through. Whereas on a bigger court, you have a bit more space, you have a bit more you can run. It provides a bit more. The keepers can get that long bomb. You have that advantage a bit more. I think the bigger court has played a massive factor into how this season has already turned out already, both in the men's and the women's.
Very different results at the same time. I mean, the amount of goals scored in the women's game, I think, has not plummeted, but definitely declined. And you see teams, and we'll talk about it later on, that are quite towards the bottom of the table, only losing 3-0, 4-0. I think the biggest I've seen, there's been 10-1s at the same time, but genuinely, it's generally been...
Hasn't been too many blowouts.
Yeah, of course. It's been much closer. And in the men's, at the start of the season, there were blowouts, man. There were 22s for Fitzroy beating Carlton. I think Fitzroy also beat Altona by like 14 goals. It was, a very different... and obviously you have to understand the teams coming into at the start, they're used to defending on this court. It might be a bit easier for them to defend on this court. The endurance needed on a bigger court. But at the same time, if you go back to the entertainment of the game, I think that the big court works, but maybe a shorter court and keeping the width of the court maybe a little bit wider gives players the ability to have a bit of flair, while at the same time, more shots are going to come off each game. I think that adds to the entertainment of the sport.
And I think because people have been so used to playing here at Thomastown, used to the court for so long. They've been here for 20 years now.
Or not Thomastown. I mean, before then it was Brunswick. Mm-hmm. So, but it definitely 5 years.
Or even 5
very
years.
similar courts at Brunswick and Thomastown.
You get very used to it, but then having to adapt to the court size of Darebin. That's where I think Western United that's helped them out because they've been able to play a bit wider. You can work your way around. You don't have to be so aggressive cutting through the corridor. But it's all about that adaptability, and you can see the teams who are adapting to the bigger courts are getting recognised with wins on the boards and points.
We're talking about teams that have adapted. I wanted to talk about Pascoe and a team that at the start of the season there was a lot of pressure put on Pascoe to come up and challenge as the third team, and it really hasn't gone to plan. You've watched Pascoe. You've seen them against the best teams. You've seen them against the teams that we would consider relegation battlers, relegation strugglers. What's going wrong for Pascoe in your mind?
Well, it's really, really interesting to look at Pascoe this season because there's been games where I think they have looked like they can compete up that higher end of the table, be a third place team. But then there's been games I've watched them where they look like they can be a bottom end of the team. Obviously, injuries do come to play. They have had people unavailable. They had 4 or 5 unavailabilities just last week when they played AKU.
I would argue that they played better without their star players. They actually got the job done for the first time in a few weeks.
Yeah, but I think what they need to try and find, I think they're working out to find where that sweet spot is, to find out what plans work, how they're going to be able to move down the court. I love their keeper, Jarvis. Sorry, guys, I'm not going to be greatest on names here.
You don't have to be. I'm
not going to be greatest on the names. I'm still getting used to him, but I think Jarvis has been a standout for them in goal. He's been really good for most games. He's probably been their most consistent player they've had all season for most of their games. Again, I'm going to go wrong with names. Who was their striker or midfielder they were missing on the weekend?
Oh, they missed a few players. They missed Michael Nguyen.
Michael Nguyen is the one I was thinking of.
Yeah,
he's a star player. Like he was when I first came in. He was the first person I saw. Like he is a gun. I think it was the first game I came feeling it was Pascoe were playing first up, and he looked like a star. But
he come from the Fitzroy system. Actually, he played for Fitzroy last season, and I have to admit, gave something to Pascoe where otherwise they were depleted. If he didn't play this season, I don't know how many games they win. They win games, but not like as comfortable against the lower teams, and they definitely don't compete against Fitzroy and Moreland.
I think they've started to find their feet the last 2 or 3 weeks, especially that win against Aku 4-2 was a big sort of saying that, hey, Aku were that team coming up. You'd sort of got 2 wins early on, like 2 or 3 wins when they came up. Thought, could this be an interesting match between Aku and Pascoe? But they really said, no, we're the 4th best team here. Aku were going to have to play at their very best. And you could see how frustrated Aku got in the end. You saw the red card happen to, again, Francis.
Yeah, just for, I think it was just, he kicked the ball into the...
He just got angry with some of the calls. Obviously, probably he wasn't happy with some of the calls from the referees, but we're not going to...
No commenting on the referees.
But you could see the frustration they had because Pascoe were just giving them nothing. And that's what you want to see, especially when you come up against likes of Fitzroy, Western and Moreland. You want to make sure you're giving them nothing easy to get through, because as soon as you give them one or two cheap, easy goals, it really brings the moral down, and they sort of like, people start to feel deflated and sort of do little mistakes that they wouldn't be doing at the start of games. You've got to just keep composed and try and have that pressure to not be easy to score on, and they can really... They could win games up the top. Who knows? Again, if they play their best, who knows what you can do.
Well, this comes into the game this week. They play Fitzroy this week. In a repeat of only 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't know if you were there for the first time that Pascoe and Fitzroy played.
I don't think I was.
So, again, it was... Pascoe led 2 goals into the half. They come out the second half. I don't know what was said at half time. I don't know what the manager decided. I think they played certain players too long. They were tired. They ended up copping 6. They lose the game. This is the second time Pascoe have gone out, led Fitzroy at half time, lost the game in 2 seasons. So I'm looking at to say, if they don't win this game this Friday, I think it's a dramatic failure for Pascoe this season.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. Obviously, Fitzroy, the Giants, they have talent all around the court. Even coming off the bench, the talent they have is unbelievable. We got Robotis is leading the goals, I believe, this season. He just keeps missing.
It's amazing.
Scott Rogan is... We know how good Scott is.
We'll get to Scott. When we talk about MVPs, for sure, he's up there.
And their keeper as well. I can't remember his name. Fitzroy's keeper.
Maliaros?
Yes, he's just bricking goals. I think they got so much talent everywhere on the court. Pascoe have to just try and, instead of having them all do their own thing, they have to try and just negate what they're doing. Just try and break them down. Try and play opposing style to what they do. Slow it down, because as soon as they go fast, you can see how quickly Fitzroy transition from defense to offense, and that's where you see them score most of their goals. They're in that transition that Pascoe, or for example, use Pascoe, say this week they play fast, aggressive tactic going forward. As soon as it gets turned over, you just see them flood. They move so well from defense to offense, and that can end up hurting them. That's what hurt them last time.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And again, I think that the manager, Jimmy Soufis, for Fitzroy, he knows how to play against Pascoe. He had a bit of help last time from star, Tyler Garner. He's a Futsalroos player, and they brought him from, I think, Perth, on one game kind of deal. I don't know if he'll play this week. We'll actually see if he comes down for the second game against Pascoe. He will be a big difference maker if he does. I'm not sure if they'll have the other star Futsalroos player, Corey Sewell, come in. He might have outdoor game. So it could be a very, in terms of squad, even game between Pascoe and Fitzroy. And obviously Fitzroy at the same time have a lot of young players that they haven't played with Fitzroy. They haven't gotten used to the system. And I think we saw that when they played Moreland the first time, that Moreland, a bit more mature of a squad, trained, they're used to the big court, rocket form this season. And I think that's the difference at the moment at the top of the table.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, so let's talk about Suphawut. You would have watched that game.
I was behind the camera, yes.
Suphawut, it wasn't very super that game, I'll tell you that. You bring this big player in, and he didn't...
But is it the player who we were talking, saying he's the issue, or is it the team he's come into that isn't supporting probably the play style that Suphawut plays?
I think it's I would actually lean towards that, to be honest with you, because he's obviously a very good player, and I think if you put him on someone like Fitzroy, Moreland, Western, Pascoe, he's going to do some stuff. He's going to get the ball. He's going to have more space to move. The players around him are going to support him. But I think the problem was how hyped he was to come here and make an impact. He was the talk of the town for like 2-3 weeks. And when you come in and you fall flat like that, it's hard for an international star player.
It's never easy coming to a different league that you've never played in. it put pressure, especially the talk. There was so much pressure on him to perform, and when he doesn't perform, it feels like it's just a letdown. Is it like, did Hume need to sign him? Is it worth it? But obviously it's going to bring help to that Hume squad. Obviously they're probably not at the stage where they want to be. Some players aren't performing how they want to be. But when he came in, it just felt like he didn't bring anything that we expected him to bring to the squad. Like, he came in, maybe some leadership, just some flair, something. We didn't get anything, and I think that's the disappointing thing most, that all this talk about him and we didn't get anything, and all we got actually was a red card.
Oh, jeez. And if you had have seen the comments on Instagram, I put a post up showcasing the 2 yellows he got. There's a debate on if those are yellow cards or not.
But it was almost like it was frustration yellows at time. Like, that second one especially, you could see the frustration he was getting because they weren't really providing any goal-scoring opportunities. They felt like they're on the back foot the whole time. It felt like he was getting frustrated at what was occurring on the court, and he tried to take that out. Obviously, look, it's contentious if it was a yellow, worthy of a second yellow or not. We're not a referee. I don't want to get involved in that stuff because that's out of my pay grade. But
you're getting paid for this?
But you look at what was it? Here's another question. Was it the right decision to bring him in and play them against a Fitzroy?
This is the debate that's happening around the stadium at the same time. Are you going to get points against Moreland? Moreland's a superstar team. Suphawut's a superstar, but Moreland have 3
Sorry,
or 4.
It was Moreland, not Fitzroy. My apologies, guys.
I mean, I know the point that you were trying to make.
Yeah.
Like, this top team where they've played together for so long and they're heavily favoured to win the game. Why are you bringing them in against Moreland? I would say maybe they're thinking that that's the best for the viewer.
And also to try and maybe negate a massive point difference in that game, possibly as well.
Possibly. I think that they brought in 2. So obviously Wadut was the other guy, and a player from Gold Coast.
Yes, I did see that, number 99.
And another player was meant to be brought in, but I think was cancelled at last minute. So they were bringing in 4 players to play against Moreland. That's almost a full team.
That changes the whole dynamic of the squad as well. Because bringing in 2 players is enough, because you have to try and find new ways to get them on the court, fit them in the system. To bring 4 in who have never played with each other, or obviously the two Thai players have played together, but 4 players who haven't really played much together into a team with 4 other players who have played together, it's looking for a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, like, these 4 players, they've played together. Yeah, you want to bring them in. What type of a statement does it make if you're bringing it in against Moreland, throwing all your cards at this one big game? Wouldn't it be more worthwhile to do that against a team like maybe Aku the next week, where it's like, okay, Aku's a great team. Aku's a great team, a young team, exciting team, but maybe you have more of a chance to get points against Aku. And maybe you win the game, and then maybe he puts it on his social media. Hey, I won the game with Hume today. Go follow Hume Futsal Club. Let's go. Obviously, Moreland's a big brand as well. They've got like 9,000 followers on Instagram, just about. I think it's in the 8s. But so perhaps Adam Kolek was thinking, if I put it against this more popular side, it works well in terms of the media aspect of bringing Suphawut in, which is ultimately the important part of bringing this player in. Hume aren't going to win just by bringing in Suphawut. Moreland last year brought in another superstar, Ivan Sumalina. They didn't need him to win the games, realistically. It's more of a marketing tool to help bring futsal, or Australian futsal, into a more popular light in Asia. So it's a really big question.
It is, but then you also got to think about the team as well. You got to think about how can we get points, how can we try and survive relegation. There's plenty of factors that they would have to come into to think. I just think it's a questionable decision that they brought him in at this time to play against the big giants, and look, it's almost a humiliation.
Well, 9-1 is 9-1. I don't know if Suphawut's taken a 9-1 loss before.
It's not, and I think especially with the pressure that's on him, might have to be able to play one game now because of it.
Exactly right, and you would think how much money may be lost bringing him over. He can only play one. Half of what was agreed. And there was a debate going on for a while about will Suphawut play on Friday? Will the card be overturned? Integrity is important. Entertainment's important at the same time. But I'm interested to know your thoughts. If you were, let's say, the commissioner of the league and you wanted to look at this situation and say, okay, I have this massive superstar player. Entertainment value is going to be there. People, want to see him to an extent. Paid money to bring him in, but at the same time, the integrity of the game and integrity of the sport. What's more important?
Well, you got to look at the pros and cons of what it's actually going to entail. The pros, obviously, you get big viewership. You're bringing people into series futsal. But on the negative, it's going to cause a lot of backlash from all the other teams.
Of course.
You could already hear people talking on Friday night about what's going to happen, is going to get overturned, what's going to happen here. But I think it's probably in the league and Football Victoria's position to hold this red card up, because as soon as you say, we're going to let this off, then if another situation arises in 2 weeks when Suphawut's not here, say it's for
exactly right.
a Scott Rogan or someone else, are you going to give him the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Francis Marr would be talking about, why am I going to be yellow carded for kicking another banner? Why don't you overturn that one? So I agree, integrity in our sport, absolutely important. I know there are leagues around the world that maybe, I think that you've seen times in sport where the league overturns certain decisions.
Yeah, but it's all about the integrity. If you want to create a sport or an organisation league that is respectable and you know that they get a red card, they're not playing next week, that's what you want, because as soon as you do it, it creeps into the game more and more, and that's when you can lose control of what's happening on the court.
I agree with you 100%. That kind of brings me to, when you think of a decision like that, I remember I wasn't there for it, but that old decision in the NBA when Chris Paul was going to go to the Lakers and
the veto.
They veto the trade. Is that integrity for the NBA to do that, or is that for the entertainment of the sport? And they have to make a decision. Ultimately, we made our decision.
We can just say series futsal isn't corrupt as the NBA, so you can say
technically
that as well.
We didn't bring the player, so realistically, it would be helping Hume if you overturn that yellow card.
It's just showing favouritism then as well.
Exactly, and that's the one thing the league doesn't need. Favoritism.
It's got to be unbiased. As soon as you show favoritism, it's a recipe for disaster.
Of course, and you want. I think if you're in a position where you're even as a viewer, I'm sure you have your favorite teams you've watched now 6 weeks. But at the same time, when you're doing your job, you have to do it.
Yeah, you got to be unbiased. There are teams that I like to watch that I'm not going to say, because I don't need this getting out in the world and then coming to a Friday night and saying, why are you supporting this team? But there are teams that excite me more than others, and I'll admit that. But you got to make sure you just keep in a professional aspect, because as soon as you show favoritism, unbiased, with biased opinions, my apologies, it's a rippling rainbow effect, and just trickles it over.
I want to come into some transfer. The transfer window opens up around 11, I believe. Well, I think it's the 6th of April. Oh, that's very close.
6th of April.
It might be the 6th or it's the 12th, or
it's
it's something I should know. I should know.
This week coming up.
It might not be this week coming up. It might be the other week.
Soon.
Who cares? It's coming up. Players are going to move around. Fitzroy at the moment, they're about 6 points behind Moreland.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and they've got a squad who is very good. Do you see them going into the transfer market at this point and trying to bring in a few players to help their season out, to save their season rather?
Well, when I look at Fitzroy, I struggle to see. Obviously, I don't know enough players outside of series futsal, but at least inside, inside SFV. I don't know how many players that aren't playing for Moreland or Western that would break into that squad and actually be impactful.
You're a good point. That's a good point. Not many.
Because when you look to create transfers, bring in players, you want people who are going to come in, have an impact from the start, or at least impact for majority of the time that they are at the club. But with the team that that Fitzroy have, where would someone, at least in SFV right now, that isn't in a competing team? So, say for example, a Pascoe. Pascoe, they'll have one person, I think, but Nguyen's already been at Fitzroy. I don't see him going back anytime soon. Melbourne Arcu, love their young players, but I don't think they've got anyone who could break into that squad. Hume and Carlton as well. I don't think there's anyone that they can target in that top grade that is going to get into that squad and make a more of an impact that likes of Robotis or Scott or they've got many other players in that team that can break, that are impactful players. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. I think I want to look at like Michael Nguyen. Mazen Abdallah is another keeper. He was I think he got injured early on in the season. He's Pascoe Vale's keeper.
Yep.
Kevin Lamb's another one who plays for Pascoe Vale, former Fitzroy. There's been a lot of talk about perhaps these players moving back to Fitzroy, to be honest with you. You hear it around the stadium. This is not like, nothing has been confirmed or anything like that, but this has been the rumour that has been spread around. What would you think of a player who, okay, they've won for 5 seasons straight. They've decided, I'm gonna go play for Pascoe Vale because I want to try something there. I want to make it happen. I want to be the man or the person who can take them to glory. 6, 7, 8 weeks later, they're thinking to themselves, I'm going back. Do you like that?
I'm very much against this. I'm a massive sports fan. I'm so much for loyalty. I don't like players who move clubs. I feel like it's not disrespectful, but like it's showing that you don't have a passion or care for the club. Obviously, if you're a bigger player coming to a smaller club, I get it. You're trying to support your smaller team. I have no issue with that. But when you see, especially, I look at all the teams in SFV. You're a top-tier club. You are on this pedestal for a reason. You're good enough to be there. But if you're moving in between there, I don't like... It's disrespectful to the club that you've been at, especially this early in the season, to already go, this isn't working, I'm going to go play for a contending team. I'd feel for Pascoe if any of that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, could you imagine, like, for example, in the NBA, LeBron James goes to the Miami Heat, they lose this, like, the first 3 months of the season, or they lose some big games, and then he's like, yeah, I'm done with that. Yeah, let's go play for Boston. Let's go to the Lakers. Let's go link up with Kobe.
I'm very much for sport loyalty because there's so much passion. I've been someone who's been a one club player at my career club. I'm a massive cricket fan, so at my career club, supported the same teams my whole life. I just feel like as soon as you switch, it shows that you don't care for the club, and the club feels like the club gets in a vulnerable position because they've got to think, especially when you lose a player like Michael Nguyen or whoever the other players there is talks about going, how do you replace that?
That's exactly right. And at the same time, this Pascoe team hasn't had a chance to work. They've been injured. I know that you can't really rely on your outdoor players too much, but there are teams that do rely on outdoor players at the same time. Moreland brings in Arte Ibrahim. I think you've seen him, or maybe once. Fitzroy will bring in Corey Sewell, Tyler Garner, and these are obviously, they are futsal players, but
external.
Exactly right. Pascoe Vale have a few outdoor players that are injured, or they got injured playing and they were mismanaged, and now they're out for the rest of the season. Arturo, who's a massive part of Pascoe Vale's team, was out for a considerable amount of this season. He's just coming back. They haven't had a chance to gel. They haven't had a chance to show what they can do, and I think if they leave now, it's kind of it's a joke, really.
It's showing that it's like breaking up a trial period. Like, what are you expecting to happen in 8 games, especially when those players have come in trying to gel? You can't expect go straight to the moon. You got to work on it. It's a long season still to go. There's plenty of things that can still happen. You got to trust what they're going through, trust the process, and then if they get in that 4th or 3rd spot, they're competing. They're staying up in SFV, so that's the aim of the game in the end. Obviously, to win titles is the aim of the game, but you also want to stay up in SFV. No one wants to go down the championship, because not shitting on the championship, but everyone wants to play at the highest level they can.
Of course.
That's what everyone does. You want to be playing. That's why everyone in the championship tries to win, come up, because it's the best league with the best teams and the best players.
Absolutely right. We're going to take a quick ad break. I'm going to make some sort of ad for this podcast. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll be right back, and we will talk championship. We'll talk women's and maybe a little bit more SFV. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Serious Futsal Podcast. I mean, I've probably made some sort of ad, or I'm just lazy and just stuck it right
Just
after that.
do a bit of like the TV static over it.
Yeah, something just random. I don't know. We'll see what I'm available to do. Anyway, this is championship time to talk about. We have implemented championship into the podcast for last time and for the foreseeable future, because I think it is a league worthy of talking about. The second division definitely deserves a lot more respect than it has been given in the past, and I will state that. That's technically it's my job as well. More media is needed for the championship.
Come on, Commissioner.
It's tough, man. It's really tough, timing-wise and whatnot. But I think this is a good way to keep teams up to date, keep them within or up the loop with the championship. So, I mean, you've seen the championship as well, so you've been here for almost every major league.
Yes.
What's the difference between the championship and series futsal?
I think the pace is probably the one thing I've noticed is a bit more different. Obviously, you're going to see at the top the best players are going to be a bit more fitter, can be a bit faster. Not saying that the championship players aren't fit, but you can see there's a massive difference in pace, bit of skill, but it's not as big as a gap as people would think it is. I think some of the players that are in the championship could be good enough to go play in the top level and be successful. It's just everyone has to start somewhere and work their way up. And hey, there's been some good performances and good individual and team performances so far this season in the championship.
Yeah. Hey, that Thornbury Northern Phoenix game.
Oh,
what a game.
I was sitting behind the camera and I thought this is the championship game of the season.
Yeah, it was.
I loved it.
Questionable calls in that game. I shouldn't have said that, but definitely.
He's going against himself here. No, I love the battle between Noe and Tyler behind the net. I think those two obviously have been great goalkeepers in the past, and watching them two sort of just like take it seriously, but have a bit of a laugh with each other, and then seeing them coach right after was something. Oh, that's something crazy.
Right? And then you had Luke Bioli coach for Thornbury. Whoever organised that match to play one after, what an ass.
Yeah.
What a dick.
What an absolute moron.
Oh gee, yeah, but no, it was a great game. Intensity.
The passion was there.
The passion was there, but I think it also spells out two different stories. Northern Phoenix, they have a great squad. They've taken players from Altona, from SFV. They rock up with a full squad every week. They're organised. I have to give it to them in that department. They are a very organised club. And then they come onto the court, onto the pitch, and it's like they're disorganised. Tyler is saving so many shots for Northern Phoenix, trying to keep them in games. Things haven't gone right for Northern Phoenix. They're struggling to win games. I think there was a bit more expectation as well, as this team, most would say last season, would have pushed top three, and even this season.
Well, even there's been games this season where I think they look at times like they should be beating their opposition, and then give away cheap defensive acts, and then Tyler's under pressure in goal. Like, they should be having more points on the board than they have already. I think they're sitting in, I think it's 5th or 6th at the moment in that relegation battle. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on them to start getting wins. Otherwise, they're looking down the barrel of the gun thinking, what are we going to have to do to try and keep ourselves in the championship, or try and get to the position where we are competing to go up?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are teams that no one expected to be compared. I think South Melbourne's second.
Yes.
You want to ask how many people would have said South Melbourne would be second? I can count them on one hand. No one said South Melbourne's going to be second in the championship. They've done something. Northern Phoenix should be doing that. They have, again, they're organised. They have a good squad. They have a new manager. Maybe that's playing a part in it.
Yeah. South Melbourne have probably been, from what I've seen, the surprise of this season. Yeah. They've just shown up, not been dominating performances, but they're getting wins on the board, and that's all you want at the start of the season. Get those points on the board, then you can start thinking about where that goal difference is, because you get points on the board early, that gives you confidence. It allows you to swing momentum your way, and you come up against opposition that end up being low on the table. In this league, we have, I think, it's North getting Footscray down the bottom two, I believe. Once you get that sort of performance where you're getting wins on the board, then you can start really showing your dominance and start getting those big goal difference point games. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think another decision made in that Phoenix Thornbury game was not to start Tyler Lewis. Yes. They actually started their second keeper. So You know, you're looking at someone. Tyler Lewis is a multi-time Golden Glove winner. SFV, played for Fitzroy, so he's pretty accomplished. Not at that level anymore.
No.
I would say, but nonetheless, he's doing a job in the championship. There's been rumours that he's not going to stay at Northern Phoenix. There's been talk around that he might be leaving.
That wouldn't surprise me, but the passion. He's the most passionate bloke for futsal I've seen out of all the competitions I've seen, both from SFV Championship and the women's comp. The passion he shows and the sprays he gives are phenomenal, but he needs his teammates to help support him. He can only do so much.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to shit on Northern Phoenix here, because I feel like we're being rude, but we're not trying to shit on them because we want to see every team succeed. You don't want to. There's obviously going to be winners and losers, but you don't want to see teams struggling when you think they should be doing well. But in this point, they're going to have to try and find something to flick that switch and get back on the win board, because there's only so much they can keep doing, going this way with the results they're having. It's gonna hurt them and put them in a bad position to possibly get relegated.
Absolutely. And I think you could hear him coming off because they played a fly keeper towards the end of the game. You heard him scream, I'm done, you know. Like, when your keeper's coming off and he sounds like that spells some internal struggles at a club.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about the internal, because that would just be...
We're an unbiased podcast.
It was unbiased, but we don't know what's going on. We can only see it from the outside.
Yes.
In, so, at the end of the day...
We're not here to make assumptions.
Exactly. And if you look at the atmosphere on the court, though, Thornbury, very good.
They play with heart. Liking
another
what Thornbury
team
producing.
that I don't think many people would have thought are in the position they're in. They actually came up 2 seasons ago, played very well to sit mid-table, and everyone was kind of shocked at that. Now they've done it again. So they have a good squad. Moe's back in goal for them. He's looking okay.
He's competent enough behind goals, I feel. Obviously, another star player that was in SFV, but he's just solid performance. You know what you're going to get out of him, and you keep getting those each week, then as long as you're scoring goals, you know what you're going to get result-wise.
Absolutely right. There was a moment in the game that blew up into kind of a little scruffle, if you remember that.
Yes.
A call that wasn't made, or a call that was made that Thornbury thought was incorrect, and you saw Julian Sabo run and push Johnny Nico, these 2 players. Obviously, you know who they are.
I know who they are. Facial-wise, yes. Names still getting used to.
That causes a bit of a scruffle. Do you think an act like that should warrant a suspension? When you come up, you rush past someone, you push them in the back, they're not looking at you.
It's a very fine line you're playing there, because if you're going to stamp it out of the game, because you don't want to see it in the game. No one wants to see that sort of action happen, especially pushing behind the back. You don't want to see it in the game. I feel like you're playing a fine line, because if you hand down the suspension, you've set the standard, you do this, you're not playing next week. But also, you don't want people to not be passionate. Yeah. And that it scuffled down to the passion they had for both their teams, trying to have that success. Look, I think suspension would be maybe a little bit overkill and a bit too overboard. I think cards were worthy enough. I think yellow cards are probably at the standard. If it was to scuffle any more than just a push, then obviously suspensions come into play. I think that's where you need to stamp that out before it gets worse than what it was. But I don't think... Every sport has a bit of push and shove. Yeah. It happens in football, happens everywhere. I don't think suspensions are necessary unless we are wanting to stamp it out completely.
Okay, well, I'll give you some background. I did suspend him for 2 games for that. So now I see your point. At the same time, I think, just to clarify, I think it's good to talk about these type of actions as well, because there was another suspension in State League 1 that I gave out for a monster tackle.
Oh, yes.
You were there for that?
Yes, I was there for that.
Yeah, I gave 8 weeks for that one.
That one was a totally different incident. It didn't look like he ever had an attempt for the ball.
Yeah, of course.
And especially the outcome that happened in the end. Yeah. You never want to see someone get injured.
Yeah, of course.
That one you have to stamp out of the game. And I'm not glad to say, but it was deserving for that suspension.
Yeah. Well, my broader point is I think it shouldn't be hush-hush what happens. You know, it should be made a bit more public. You could talk about why I have to give out that suspension. For me, I gave out that suspension because I felt that because the player on the floor was turned around and wasn't facing his man, and he comes in and pushes very high, that was enough violent conduct for me. It's not violent conduct per se, but it does fall under violent conduct, minimal contact. And I thought, I don't like seeing it happen when someone's turned around. It's almost like a coward punch.
Yeah, it's happening from behind. Like you can't see what's happening. No, I see why you have that, but you could see
harsh.
You could see slowly during the game the build up of the tension that was occurring.
Yep.
You could see the players are getting frustrated against the opposition, but it's a fine line you're playing if how you want to control what's happening with those incidents.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, one thing that I always ask people that come, and I asked Tyler Lewis this when he jumped on the podcast and a few other people, championship, serious futsal, combine the leagues, keep it 7-7. What do you think?
It's an interesting debate. I don't mind the idea of having 14, but you need to have, at the standard we're at now, if I'm looking at where the bottom 4 or 5 are in the championship, also if you look at 14, where the bottom 4 and 5 are, where the top 4 and 5 are, you need to make sure that's not a ridiculous difference.
And you think it is now?
I
would say it is now too.
I think there's too big of a gap. Even you're looking in SFV, the gap between 7th and 1st is
ridiculous.
Still big.
Yes.
You see in other sporting leagues, like A-League's a terrible example, but AFL, I'm going to use an example. You have 2 or 3 teams who are terrible and won't win many games, but then that 4th and 5th team will be competing with those teams who are around that finals competition.
Of course.
But I feel like I don't see anyone remotely in the championship going to be near competing Moreland, Western, Fitzroy, even Pascoe.
I would say only Western City. I
can see Western City competing with Pascoe Vale, but I don't know if they can compete with the Fitzroy, Moreland, or Western.
That's fair. That's not an unfair statement to make. I think that's fair. What do you think is needed to improve the league in terms of quality? Grassroots or... it's one of those...
It's a really, question that you have to look really deep into because it's not a simple solution.
Yeah.
Grassroots is obviously a great way to grow the league, to get people from when they're young playing all the way through.
And there are a few teams that do that. There are a few.
Excuse me.
Fitzroy is a team that does this. I think Arku have started. Northern Phoenix do it. But it's obviously a long project to do something like that at the same time. There are teams that don't do it. I don't think Moreland has a grassroots program, at least not in our kind of atmosphere. Pascoe Vale doesn't do it. Moreland doesn't even have a youth team. So I think if you want to improve the sport, it does start from the young players coming up and saying, hey, I want to play for Moreland. I want the opportunity to have a pipeline to get into that starting lineup.
I agree. And I think the simple solution, not simple solution, the solution that I think would be able to fix better.
And the camera cut out because Josh is bad at his job.
No, I can't stop coughing. No.
Okay, well, but I was giving you a pass.
Not the simple solution. A solution that I can see being able to turn this into a 14 league competition is having the star players spread out between clubs and not having such a monopoly on the star players being those top 2 or 3 teams.
Okay, this is a big conversation, a big challenge. What do? Do you redistribute? Do you put salary cap? Does the league put salary caps on players and say, hey, this guy, Scott Rogan, he's worth $100 million or $10 million, and you have a $100 million team cap or something like that? Like, how do you do something like that?
It's really hard. Like you see in Europe for football, it's so hard. You see there is a massive difference between the top level and the bottom level. But if you want to see a competition where you're going to have different winners each season, it's going to be more like a changing sort of who are the top players. You have to be a lot more reliable on your middle row players rather than your top end players, because it's going to create... It means that there's going to be better games, better quality... not saying better quality competition, but there's going to be more competitive games. And you're going to see... That's what everyone wants competition. No one's going to sit home and watch a 9-0 thumping. They want to see a nice, tight game.
They do.
Where it's going to go down to the wire and you don't know
They do.
who's going to get the points here.
Yeah, they do.
But again, teams also want to be able to win championships, and people aren't going to want to let go of their best players. That's why you see the Moreland and Fitzroy have such these big star players, because they want to win and they're competing at such a high level to get to where they want to be.
The other issue, obviously, is these teams want to have their structured players that they can bring into national competitions, and then if they're good enough, international competitions, if that pathway opens up. And if you do split the league up, and have Scott Rogan on this team, Cosimo Russo on that team, Kevin Dos Santos, Pimenta, Cooper, I could go on about how many good players are in the league. They aren't going to play with each other for the extended period of time that they will be the most competitive they could be when they go and play other teams from around the country or international teams. And there already is a big gap.
It's very much a weighing seesaw, and do you want the best players playing the best clubs, playing against the best teams in the country and in the world, or do you want competitive balance in the league where you're seeing the star players distributed out to different clubs and providing an even competition? It's very much like which end of the seesaw you're going to be on.
Absolutely. And there's no right answer. I think for the entertainment of the league, you would want to see it more even. But at the same time, I'm sure Moreland and Fitzroy would come and say, well, we've done it. We put the work in to get these players.
Exactly.
Why can't you do it?
Yes.
Or you can look at a team like Pascoe. They got the star players. What's not working there? Western United have the young players. They're coming up. They're doing all right.
It's a very big story that you could. It's very much theorising what can happen.
Now, I think I want to bring this into the women's game now.
Yes.
Because we're talking about international games and players and whatnot. Rebecca Davies.
She's in.
She's in. I
she
like
made it.
Finally.
I heard this, that she originally made a squad, and I was absolutely livid.
Yeah, this makes sense. I mean,
how is the talent of Rebecca Davies not making the initial squad for the Futsalroos now that she's in
28 players, by the way.
28 players, and you're saying she's not one of the best 28 players in the country. That is a joke.
Well, she was one of the top 5 players in the national competition. Her team didn't even get to the final. She got the team of the tournament. Second in MVP voting in series futsal. I mean, scoring goals, assisting. Maybe she could score a bit more. West United struggled a little bit, but at the same time,
I didn't know what more she had to do, and
some people have been saying it's because of her age. I've heard that around that, because she's a bit older, they don't want to take her.
But I think that's a stupid argument.
That's what I think too.
So if you're saying the best player in the world is 30 years old, but you see a player who's not as good as the 30-year-old, but they're an up-and-coming 18, 19-year-old, you're going to pick them over the best player in the world. That's that logic I'm hearing there.
That's a good point. That's a good point. They would argue, is she the best player in Australia? That's probably the counter argument.
She's probably
there.
not
But
the best
she's
player.
she's very, very good.
She's very good. The work she puts in at Western, and the way that Western United work around her, and she's able to distribute, score, assist. Her playmaking is incredible. She has
a hunger.
She's a star.
And
there are some good players in the women's futsal, like Jess Howe.
Jess Howe's phenomenal player.
Phenomenal player. Claudia Frascalzo is another big name.
Player. Yeah,
it's like
Diana Frascalzo.
Even that, she scored 3 on the weekend. Hat trick,
4 goals. She was insane.
Like, the talent this league has for the women's is second to none. Like, it's probably one of the best women's comps I've seen at a local professional level.
I want to put this out. I think series futsal, even before my time, the effort and the focus put on the women's competition outweighs a lot of professional sports.
100%.
I mean, you have a league that is competitive. It's arguably the most interesting league in terms of who can win the competition. 3-4 teams that are good teams.
Right now, first and third is separated by 3 points.
Yeah, that's not in the
3 points. And that's you got Melbourne Aku, Western United and Fitzroy are all within 3 points of each other.
Yeah, exactly right.
All it is.
You almost would rather tune into the women's game than the men's game.
If you can do both, tune into both.
Tune into both. In terms of entertainment
value,
you don't know when those 3 teams come up against each other who's going to win the game.
There's been some great games when they played each other too. That Western and Fitzroy game last week was not last week, the weekend before.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Beautiful done.
Western.
It was 2-0, but at the same time, Western weren't out of it. Liz Eyre scores the keeper for Fitzroy.
That is one of the best goals I've seen this season.
Put that on the screen, Josh. Please put that on the screen.
That is...
Oh, my God.
I've never seen... I was sitting behind the camera, and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching this. I'm like, I wasn't going to get the goal in frame, and then I was, maybe I should just in case. And she barreled that into the top bins. You're like, when you have your goalkeeper doing that...
Consistently. She does it consistently.
That is hard to try and plan to defend against.
That's what I mean. And we had this conversation last season, a few around the stadium, about who's the best keeper in the league. I think last season it was Lara Hayek, Western United's keeper.
Yep.
But the argument was Lara is a better shot stopper. Liz Eyre is a good shot stopper, a great shot stopper.
She's a playmaker.
But she provides something that no other keeper in the league, and I would argue there are a few players who can pull from that range. Like, I don't think that a lot of the anchors in the women's league could pull up from there and hit that. No chance. Not Rebecca Davies. Maybe that's it. Liz Eyre.
I can't think of any other names.
Like, she has this ungodly talent that other keepers do not have.
Yeah.
And it makes her so dangerous. And that's why she gets selected to go into, higher national teams, and not national teams, nationals teams for Victoria and whatnot. Like, she brings something to the game, and she's very underrated for it. No one really says this keeper is the best keeper in the league.
She is very good. Well, we've seen some great keeping performances this season too. I want to give a shout out to Thornbury United's goalkeeper,
Danny Petresca.
That 2 weeks in a row, and she has kept clean sheets.
Can I say, I've never seen in my life a ball just magnetized to a keeper. No matter who kicks that ball, it just hits her and it doesn't go in.
Thornbury United have actually impressed me this last month. They've been on a great run. 9 points from 4 games. They're winning. They're keeping clean sheets.
Absolutely.
For a team, I don't think many people expected to be in the position that they are.
No, man, no. Again, if you wouldn't find a single person who said Thornbury United can get 3 wins in a month. No one.
And
I wouldn't have said it. I wouldn't have said 2 clean sheets. Last season they would have said what? They don't know what a clean sheet is. They've never heard of it. They come up from the 2nd division. And in a month, 3 out of 4 wins, 75%.
Yeah. And I look at it. They're nothing special. They just work as a team. They don't have the star players, but they all work and intertwine with each other. And it's like a poultry. It just flows on and works perfectly. And they're not winning games by a lot, but they're getting points.
Shout out to Quinn Ewan for Thornbury's team. She is an absolute star at the back, and she brings that energy. She did it at Northern Phoenix when she was previously at Northern Phoenix, and so you can really tell what type of a quality player she is when she comes into another squad that's sitting at towards the bottom end of the table, and she's giving them results. I had an argument, I think, 2 days ago about who should get manager of the month this month. I think you could argue Luke Paoli.
Oh, 100%. Because when you look at, say, we're looking at comparisons to who we think should be manager of the month.
Yes.
You got to look on expectation.
This is what I say.
Expectation versus reality.
Yes, man.
No one was expecting Thornbury to get 9 points in 4 games.
If you put money on it, how much would you?
They would have been paying about 1,000 to 1. I would have been putting much money on that. We're putting $1 bet on that. But for that to pay out how it has, 9 points. The Thornbury manager must be thinking, we're in a great position here. Points are on the board. We're getting wins. We're getting clean sheets. What more can you ask for?
And I want to bring this up as well. They beat some teams at the start of the season. Were ranked quite highly.
Yes.
Heidelberg United had a good team. They have a good team.
Yes.
They're not getting the results now in recent weeks, but if you look at that through the lens of hindsight, you're saying, oh, they haven't been very good. Thornbury's one of the reasons they haven't been very good. Same with Northern Phoenix. Northern Phoenix, I've got to say this, I put them as to be a top 4 team.
They've disappointed a little bit this season. They've got the
talent. Not a little bit. They're second last. They've got. I said they were going to be 4th. They've got 4 points.
Tyler, you better fix this quickly because we're not liking this, Tyler. But look again. Expectation versus reality. It's not an easy sport to win.
No. Some people would argue this. Is the manager of the month something that should go to the best manager? or the kind of the narrative and the storyline of the month?
I'm with you. I'm with the narrative. Because,
agree.
again, I look at this, it's an expectation versus reality. I'll repeat myself again, but it's what it is. Because if you have a manager who is over-exceeding their expectation, that they are making these decisions and getting these performances. Obviously, the players are doing it on the field.
Of course.
But the play style and the way they want to play is produced by the manager. They should be getting rewarded with roses.
Yep, I agree with you. We'll see what happens there. We'll see what is selected. I will say Kuimu, shout out to Kuimu, does have a shout at it. Getting a win against Fitzroy and a draw against Western United.
Correct.
These are big results. And I don't think any of the top three teams go in to those games against each other and there's an expectation to win, which is great.
Yeah.
It's always let's flip the coin, bang, who's going to win?
Yeah.
So I will say that they're doing what they're expected, but there have been some bumpy roads because of the quality.
They haven't looked as fresh as they have in years gone past.
Now, I want to talk about Northern Phoenix. We'll touch on Northern Phoenix a little bit. Again, this is a team that brought in a lot of players. Very good players. Young players, mind you, but they had some strong words at the start of the season with how they were going to perform. They thought they were contenders for the title. They thought that they could push, that they were good enough. We've watched them. It's 8-9 weeks in now. This is completely a 180 from what we expected.
It's is it too early to say they're going to go back to the chopping board and look at trying a different system or a different style in game to try and get back on the winning board?
Before I comment, I want to say, what do you think they're missing? What's not going right with them? What are they doing that they could do better?
I just don't think I think their ball movement at time is a bit sloppy.
Okay.
And I reckon they turn the ball over a bit too easy at times. I feel like they'd be a lot cleaner with their skills. But again, I feel like defensively has let them down. They haven't been able to defend well enough.
Yes.
They haven't.
Lazy defending.
Yes.
Lazy defending at times.
They're letting their players through they're letting their opposition through way too easily, and then you're seeing again when your forwards, the opposing forwards are getting through on them, they're getting rewarded by scoring goals because there's no pressure on them coming from the defenders.
Yeah, I think we're very clear on that. The defense, and it's just the defensive effort. I think there are a few players on the team that give it, but there's a problem that they have with not giving it to the end. And they're not, it's either they're not fighting for the badge, or they don't care about, maybe not care, that's probably harsh to say, but they're not fighting for the badge, they're not fighting to the end of the game to get the best result possible. I don't believe it.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of work for them to do now to get them to a position where you were saying you predicted them to finish fourth. It's still doable. They still can turn. It's still early games in the season. They still can turn it around. They just need to find that flicker, that switch that's either going to get them back into it, or they find just something different to get them back on the winners' board. That's all they need.
And they have really quality young players.
They have players.
Like, they are young players. Don't get me wrong. They have Chris Malloy, great player.
He's very good.
Great player. May O'Brien, another young player. I think I was sitting there with someone, we're looking and we're going, damn, she's just, what she can do at her age, she's a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
And Nikki Galanos, another spectacular leader for Northern Phoenix. Maybe you have to question the leadership in that team, and maybe you have to question Tyler Lewis as a coach.
Ooh, that's a big call.
Well, he's come in. He's got expectations. He's not living up to the expectations. Again, it's not like I haven't spoken to him. He would have thought they would have finished top 4 easily. We've had arguments on it. They have 4 points.
It's a time for Moe to take maybe over as coach, and you see Tyler step back into assistant role.
I don't know. Maybe he can't get the motivation out of the girls. Maybe he can't.
Is he maybe too harsh on them?
Maybe he's too hard. Maybe it's not. The girls are not responding to his style of management because they're not fighting for the ball and they're not fighting defensively, and it's costing them. This is a league. Again, I said at the start, or much earlier in this podcast, not a lot of goals are scored. They've copped 20 goals in 2 games to Aku and I think it was Fitzroy.
Yes.
They got, that's How do you walk out of that after, as a player who you're thinking you're going
It's
to finish at the top?
demoralising. It's
Exactly right.
demoralising.
Exactly right. So I don't want to be too harsh on Northern Phoenix. They are a good squad and they have good players, but something needs to change.
They need to find that switch and find it fast.
Yeah. I think we'll come on to the last part of this podcast, and that'll just be, let's talk quickly about next week. The game's coming up next week. You have men's. You won't be there for men's yet again. You're missing the best games.
I'm shattered.
Moreland, Western United, Pascoe, Fitzroy, and then
Hume and Aku.
Hume and Aku. I just want your quick predictions on those games.
Let's start with Hume Aku. Could be an interesting game.
Yeah,
Could
absolutely.
be interesting. I think Aku will be going in as the favourites, as they probably have been deserving to be. They've come up into this comp and have shown that they can keep it with some of the teams. I'm probably going to go Aku. I think they're just too good. Managed well. Good young team. They play well together. It's going to be interesting to see. There's going to be no... I'm going to go blank on names here again.
Suphawut?
No, for Aku.
Oh, Ma. No Ma.
No Ma. But could be interesting.
And then the two big ones.
Two big ones. Fitzroy Pascoe.
It's tough, man. That's a tough game.
Fitzroy Pascoe.
I've heard rumours that Javaro won't be playing. Javaro Nepomissino, big player. He won't play. Unknown if Michael Nguyen, Mazen Abdallah will come back and play.
I think if Michael Nguyen and Mazen come back, we have a game on our hand. We have a game on our hand.
Well, this is the chance they have to show they are the players. They are the players.
If they can take it to Fitzroy for the full 40 minutes time on, and possibly only lose by a goal, they're showing art. They're in the right way, right spot. I think Fitzroy.
Yeah, if they lose by a goal, that's completely
that's a win.
reasonable.
That's a win in my opinion for them.
Yeah.
I think Fitzroy are probably going to get the win here, but Pascoe could surprise me. I don't mind Pascoe. I think the team that they have here is very interesting. If you have Mazen and Michael playing, who knows what can happen.
Yeah, they're quality players. Again, I put it on them. If you're the guy, if that's your team, you're going to show it's your team. You've got to go out there, you've got to get a win, you've got to lead it. And I'll give Michael credit. He's put Pascoe on his back a lot, so he does need a bit of help. And that final game, Western United and Moreland.
1v2 on the MVP ladders we have here.
Parthemos Christos Apostolakis.
This is going to be... I'm going to call this out. This is going to be game of the season.
Really?
Game of the season so far. I'm shattered I'm missing this game, but it will be game of the season. I think Elias is going to have come out with vengeance since you dropped him down to second. He's going to be thinking he deserves to be number one over Christos.
Does he deserve? I don't know.
Oh.
Going to show it. This is the game to show it.
Yeah. This could... I don't know who I'm going to pick here. It's a 50-50 flip of the coin. I think it's a lot closer than people think. Western United have really impressed me this season. I know I haven't seen them in seasons gone past, but I think what they are doing there, the performance they are providing, and the squad they have, they could really push it here and bridge the gap from 7 to 4 points.
All right. Those are the predictions for this Friday's games. Ethan Stone. Wow, this has been a great podcast, I hope.
I've been enjoying coming on this podcast. It's good to just chat a bit of futsal every now and then.
And I hope I can jump on your podcast and we can make a collaboration. Remember, go check out this man's podcast.
The Uneducated Nuffies. We'll make sure to be putting some serious futsal content on sometime soon. Might even try and get some futsal players on.
If you're a futsal player and you actually want to come on to the podcast, I dare you to come onto the podcast. I mean, it's not easy always to sit up here. You've got to answer some questions sometimes. Right. Sometimes you get away with a lot of things, but sometimes you don't. Depends. So come on to the podcast. It's a great experience. Your knowledge is valuable. I mean, your opinion is valuable. And honestly, you deserve the right to come up and say, I don't agree with what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about.
We want people to come on the podcast and debate arguments about what you hear from other people. Because, again, everyone's got their own opinions. We want to hear it. That's what makes this show interesting. That's
what makes futsal interesting. It's the narratives, the opinions, everyone getting involved, it's community. So, get onto the podcast. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Ethan. Oh, gee, well, it's the Serious Futsal Podcast, episode 8, I hope. Maybe 7. See ya.